I am now at the place where I have to do the roundover on the sharp edges. This little box is going to be passed around from one little kid to another when they take up a collection, and we don't want any sharp edges. Also, if it gets dropped, if there's a sharp edge, there's a lot more of a chance that it's going to chip. Roundover will help prevent chipping, and I guarantee you it's going to get dropped. Now there's a place coming up here, and I'll tell you when it is, that I accidentally let go of this thing, and the vacuum is so strong there that it pulled it right into the cutter. Now, fortunately, it went in at a place where it had already removed the wood. If it had have gone into a new place, that little coin box would have gone flying. It happens right now. Now, speaking of strong vacuum, when was the last time you saw somebody using a router and there was no sawdust or shavings? Well, there is. There's lots of them. It's just that they're being removed so fast you can't even see it. It's going into that square hole there in the fence. Now here's where I made a mistake, and it's too late now, of course, but I should have had the little box laying on its side, and the bearing running along the bottom of the box, not on the side where it's curved in. Well, here I'm going to have to do a little sanding by hand, but I got the basic contour now. And I don't know if you saw it, but I got one little place where it chipped out. I'm hoping that I can camouflage it with the hand sanding. Well, it's the next day, and I'm back here with my oscillating spindle sander. And it's my hope that I'm going to be able to get rid of this little chip here. I think if I'm really careful, I'm going to have better luck with this than I will trying to do it by hand. Anyway, let's give it a whirl. Now this little corner doesn't quite match up anymore because I rounded over this edge. So it changed it a little bit. So as long as I got the router set up, I may as well take advantage of that and just do the corners very, very carefully and very gently. And it'll keep it all the same. In other words, this will be the same as this and this. As near as I can tell, I'm finished with the router. I can't see how I can improve on these roundovers by going over it anymore. Now you'll notice where the dark monkey wood got into the end grain on the aspen. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to sand that out. I think it will. Now people have been asking me, how are you going to get the coins out after you drop them in? Because it's all sealed up. Well, the only person so far that guessed the right answer, at least that told me about it, was my brother. He says you're probably going to pass it through the bandsaw and cut it in half, and then just separate the two halves to get the coins out. So that's what I'm planning on doing. However, I'm also going to have aligning pins, so that when the two halves are put back together, it's perfectly aligned, and the seam here will line up as well as possible. So the time to put these holes in is right now, before I cut it in half. And there's also going to be a screw at the bottom and a screw at the top. So that's pretty much the next step. Make these holes for the aligning pins and the holes for the screws. Well, I'm sure I'm not the only one to notice that I can't put a screw here. It'll go right into the coin slot. So I'm going to have two screws on the top. One here, and one on the bottom here. And the aligning pins will go here, and here, here, and here. And as it turns out, this bit is just the right size for the aligning pins and also for the tap for the screw. I'm going to do the screw holes first because they have to go a little deeper than the aligning pins do. So now that these holes are drilled through all the way through, as I mentioned, once I split this, they can't help but line up. The hole in this piece will line up perfectly with this piece. At least in theory it should. I don't see why it can't. Anyway, time to start sanding. I don't like sanding, I don't know why. Maybe it's because I can't use a machine on something like this. Anyway, here we go. Now it is at this point that I'm beginning to be a little bit worried, because as you can see, that monkey wood sawdust is not coming out of the pores of the aspen like I thought it was gonna. And now not only is there sawdust in the little pores here and there, but there's stains. And I don't know, maybe that's the oil or sap in that aspen coming out, and the sawdust is sticking to it more there than anywhere else. Yeah, so I don't know what to do here. If I had have used acrylic, then I wouldn't have this problem. But I didn't have any white acrylic. Mind you, I did once hear a song, something about stains on the cross. So maybe this is just sort of poetic. Now I have been using varathane for years and years and years. I've used a lot of the what used to be number 90. I think it's now number 900. The high gloss. Used a lot of that. Had very good results. But I have never used the water base. This is going to be a first. And maybe I shouldn't be experimenting on something as nice as this. But I want to try it out. Just see how it goes. And I'm probably going to have to do, I'm guessing, 5 coats. Because I already did a little experiment with some of this yesterday. It doesn't seem to go on quite as well as the oil base. Well, anyway, I guess here we go. And we'll see how it's going to look. Bet you were wondering what I was going to do so I could hold it now that it was wet on this side, right? Well, I'll tell you, I was wondering too. This may or may not work. I'm very careful, trying not to touch the back. But like I say, it's probably going to have 4 or 5 coats. Let's see what's going to happen on those stains now. This does not go on at all like the oil base. It's almost like spreading a cream. It's going to be interesting to see if it has a tendency to run like the oil base does. I'm trying not to put it on too thick. Now the next coat is going to go on a lot easier. The reason it's going to go on a lot easier because I'm not going to have to hold this little piece in such a way that the camera can see it. It's a little bit awkward. I'm not complaining. I'm happy to do it. But the next coat will go on easier. Now my plan here is to let this dry for a couple of days, then to sand, refinish, a couple of days waiting, sand, refinish, and so on. Do that 4 or 5 times. So it's going to be a bit of a lull here before we get to episode number 10. But episode number 10 will be the conclusion. We will split this up the middle with the bandsaw and, put in the aligning pins and widen the little slots so we can get coins in it. And so in the meantime, thank you for watching.